Right, but to really land the punch on that ideological conflict, the way the commentary flows right now, it's structurally weakened because you've got this like big promotional bit dropped in quite abruptly. You're building up some real momentum, intellectually, emotionally even. You've just laid out these high stakes, Levin calling Tucker a, Nazi promoter? And the whole debate about who's benefiting, TPUSA offering the stage.
Yeah, the tension is really peaking there. You're right in the thick of the political strategy. Exactly. And then it feels like out of nowhere, there's this quite long, detailed section about Angel Studio, talking about David, The Chosen, Sound of Freedom. Now, the weakness isn't just, oh, it's an ad. It's that this specific kind of promotion, focusing on faith, family, historical epics, it just slams the brakes on the political analysis. It asks the listener to completely switch gears, emotionally and intellectually, away from this really quite secular, intense political drama.
That's a really good point. It's not just any ad break. It's like a thematic whiplash. It kills the mood you've built. So, okay. Sponsorships are often necessary. How do you handle that without totally derailing the core analysis?
Well, our suggestion here is about focus. Ruthless focus, maybe. You need to either isolate those kinds of tangential bits or, frankly, remove them if they don't directly serve the main analysis of the feuds.
Okay.
If you absolutely must include sponsorship like that, you've got to treat the core political breakdown as, well, almost sacred ground. Don't interrupt it. Put the ad somewhere the tension is naturally lower.
Right. Preserve that bubble of concentration around the main point. So how could that Angel Studios bit be handled better, practically speaking?
Well, one way is pretty simple. Just edit out the really specific stuff, the detailed instructions. Go to angel.com/chicks, 2 free tickets for David. That level of detail. It doesn't belong inside the analysis of Levin and Tucker. It needs its own space, like a standard ad read, separate, clean. Or, if it has to stay sort of where it is structurally, then frame it very clearly as a break, a distinct interlude. You finish the deep dive on, say, Levin and Tucker's clash.
Okay.
Then you explicitly say, okay, we're going to take a quick moment, do the ad read, and then use that as a hard reset before you come back to maybe the concluding thoughts. Like, who's actually winning from all this? Dave Smith, Candace Owens' ratings?
I see. So you sort of cordon off the analysis, give it its own protected space before moving to maybe the consequences of the beneficiaries.
Exact. Seal off the drama before you pivot.
That makes sense. Shifting from structure to content then, once that flow is cleaner, the substance has to hold up. And I think the material does a good job recognizing the triangle between Levin, Tucker, and Shapiro, and it notes the Shapiro debate might be more, productive.
Yes, that's definitely a strong observation. And this is the next big hurdle. The commentary sometimes leans too heavily on just describing the personalities in these really emotional, subjective ways, and that crowds out the deeper ideological analysis. You hear a lot of judgmental language, right? Calling them toddlers, saying Levin is being dramatic, Tucker is desperate, Seth Dillon is a literal demon. Now look, that stuff grabs your attention. It adds flair.
Sure, it's punchy.
It is punch, but the weakness is it kind of satisfies that maybe surface-level desire for gossip or drama, but it stops short of giving the listener the really robust critical thinking on the politics that they probably came. It's like an emotional sugar rush without the actual nutritional value, intellect.
Okay, that's a fair point. But if you strip out all that dramatic language, do you risk losing the audience that's drawn in by that very conflict? How do you find the balance?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance, not about removing it entirely. The suggestion is more about calibration. You need to either replace some of that highly personal dismissal or at least balance it out with direct analysis of the substance of what they're disagreeing about.
Okay.
Use the dramatic actions, the over-the-top language. Use those as like evidence or starting points for the ideological breakdown. Don't let the drama be the main point. It should serve the argument. So take the Shapiro-Tucker thing over Maduro. Good example. The commentary notes Tucker's angle about Maduro being, quote, socially conservative.
Right.
To make that stronger, you need to spend more time digging into why that's significant. What's the fundamental split here? Is it prioritizing social conservatism globally, which seems to be a Tucker theme sometimes, or is it prioritizing anti-communism, national security, American interests, the things Shapiro hits hard with? Like Maduro's shipping fentanyl or the whole eating dog thing.
So instead of just saying they're like toddlers fighting, you actually dissect the core ideological tension. Is it culture first, or is it geopolitics and security first for conservatives?
Precisely. Now that's an interesting conversation. That elevates it. Or take Levin. Instead of just saying his response was dramatic, or he has a flair for drama, analyze why he used that specific language. Nazi promoter, modern-day David Duke.
Yeah, it's intense language.
It's incredibly intense. So analyze it as a rhetorical tactic. What's he doing with that language within the conservative movement? He's drawing an extremely sharp line, saying this is unacceptable. He's using the history of shunning figures like Duke to try and silence a rival now.
Right.
That shifts the focus from just judging Levin's performance to actually understanding his strategy and what it means for conservative discourse itself.
Okay, I see. That gives the listener something more substantial to chew on, a takeaway about how rhetoric works in these fights. Building on that, strategy, integrity. Let's look at the end part, where it talks about private texts, Candace Owens' reaction, this whole public versus private dynamic.
Right, so the material brings up some really crucial points there about platforming, accountability, strategy, but it doesn't quite follow through completely on the critique. The result is the editorial judgment on people's motives feels a bit inconsistent. The issue here, the weakness, is that you raise these big philosophical questions like Levin's apparent double standard, right? He won't debate Tucker, doesn't want to platform him, but then TPUSA offers the platform anyway.
Yeah.
Or the difference between, historically shunning someone like David Duke versus just allowing free speech. These are great points, but the commentary tends to step back before drawing a really firm conclusion about who's being consistent or principled.
So it lays out all the pieces, really interesting observations, but doesn't quite assemble them into a final clear picture of what the riff truly signifies.
Exactly. It leaves you with a collection, not quite a cohesive argument. So the suggestion here is to establish a clearer standard, a metric for judging how these players are acting. What's the rulebook we're using? Is it about absolute free speech? Is it about ideological purity? Is it just about protecting your own reputation?
Right.
Once you decide on that metric, or at least make it clear which one you're applying, you need to use it consistently across the board for all the figures involved.
That makes sense. A consistent lens is key for a sharp critique. Can you give some examples of where applying that lens more rigorously would tighten things up?
Sure. Let's take Candace Owens again. You need to analyze the potential hypocrisy. She complains about others like Seth Dillon using these sort of behind-the-scenes tactics, trying to make her look crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, as the material notes, she's clearly benefiting from the public drama. Her podcast ratings are up. She's engaging in these very public attacks herself. So if your metric is, say, integrity in public discourse, you have to analyze that. Do her actions line up with her complaints? Is this just smart tactical maneuvering on her part, using the drama? Or does it show a kind of bad faith that undermines her own claims? The commentary needs to make a clearer judgment call there based on the chosen standard.
Okay, apply the standard directly to her actions and statements. And what about that historical point you mentioned, the David Duke comparison?
Yeah, that's another key spot. When you bring up that historical principle of shunning figures like Duke, you need to explicitly connect it to what's happening right now.
How so?
Well, for instance, you could ask, does TPUSA choosing to platform Carlson, despite Levin's very loud objections, using that Duke-level rhetoric, does that decision align with the historical principle of shunning, or does it signal that the principle itself is maybe breaking down in today's environment? Or is Levin's refusal to debate simply a strategic calculation, nothing to do with principle at all? You need to force that connection between the past standard and the present fight. Make it explicit. Are these players acting on principle, or is it just pure pragmatism and power plays?
Got it. Force the comparison and draw a conclusion based on the evidence and the chosen standard. This has been really insightful, looking at how to balance the drama of political commentary with the need for sharper, more consistent analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to quickly recap the main suggestion. First, structurally, you've got to protect that core analysis. Trim or relocate those big distracting segments, especially the thematic non sequiturs like the movie promote. Keep the focus tight.
Right. Clean up the flow.
Second, on tone and style. Pivot from leaning so heavily on personal judgments and drama. Balance it with, or better yet, ground it in, a sustained critique of the ideological substance and rhetorical strategies at play. Elevate the conversation beyond just gossip.
More analysis, less name-calling.
Essentially, yes. And finally, completeness and focus. Establish a clear editorial standard, whether it's consistency, free speech, integrity, whatever, and apply that lens rigorously to all the figure. Don't just raise the questions about hypocrisy or inconsistency. Try to answer them based on your chosen metric.
Those are 3 really solid, actionable points. Prune distractions, deepen the analysis beyond personality, and apply a consistent critical standard. Excellent advice for taking this from a good piece to a really compelling one. We are definitely looking forward to seeing how this develops. When you have a revised version, please do send it back our way. We'd be happy to take another look.